Lisa from Tri-Generations of Campbellsville. Lisa, thank you so much for taking the time to put this together. We're looking forward to your presentation today.
Thank you for having us. We have put together a slideshow.
And this is Beth. I'm going to advance them myself. So I don't know if there was any voice that accompanied it, but it's not on my local drive, nor is it on WebEx. So as I go through them, if you could narrate, that would be terrific. Or maybe that's what you were planning on doing.
We actually had our theme song, and it was YMCA. They love exercising to that, and so we put this. This is some of our class that we started with, and this is as they're doing, if everybody would remember, the old YMCA dance that we did with that. And you can do the next slide. And this shows how the staff actually got in there with all our individuals. We started out with 8 in our class for classroom and exercise, and we ended up with the whole day training program towards the end. Next slide. I had to call Lindsay a couple of times because we have a lot of individuals with mobility issues and had to figure out ways to incorporate what we had seen into people that were in wheelchairs, walkers, and that just weren't able to move. And this is Miss Katie, and she loves coming to exercise class every day. And Lindsay was a big help trying to find the right exercises to work with Katie. Next slide, please. This also was a challenge for us. The young lady that is holding the ball has a very bad and severe sight impairment. So we had to figure out ways on how to show to do exercises and different routines to someone that couldn't see us be doing it. So then again, we had to call Lindsay, and she was a great help with that. Next slide, please. This is Ken, and as you can see, he has to do all his from a chair. So we worked with Lindsay again to figure out different types of chair exercises to work with him. Next slide, please. This is Louie, who also has another severe sight impairment, and once again, we had to figure out how to do it. So we worked it out, and he was able to keep coming to class every day. Next slide, please. And this just shows how they're working with Ken one-on-one, so he could join our class. Next slide.
So going back to the slide before, you said you figured out how to work with him with his vision. What were some of the things that you did?
Well, a lot of it was that we were talking right through him, and we would sing the song, and we would give verbal instructions the whole time that we were there, verbal prompts. Louie, the ball's coming. But we were able to talk him through it, and it worked out really well for him.
Okay, so verbal prompt. Good. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. And this is Miss Mary, who has very limited mobility, and she uses a wheelchair and a whole lot of use out of her legs.
Now we can't hear.
Upper was really good. So we would just tell her what color was coming and what direction that she needed to pass it to. Out of fun.
Should I bring her phone?
Next slide, please. One was another challenge for us. This young lady is a,
I don't know.
so we had to figure out how to and what we did is one of the staff is very fluent in sign language and would stand in front of her and do the signs so she would know what she needed to do for class. Next slide, please. Here we are all doing the YMCA, whether it be from a chair or standing or if you just needed to take a break. Next slide. And once again, our budget was on a limited side because we wanted to give out cash prizes once a month. So we got very creative with finding simple ways to use different activities and find the equipment that we need. This is the streamers, but if you could see, it is just attached to number 2 lead pencils. Next slide. We created our own weight bottles. We got sand from my house, and we reused bottles and sterilized them with sand in it. They weigh 3.5 pounds apiece. Everybody's doctor was in agreement that that was a good weight for everybody. Next slide.
And that's a great idea with the lead pencil. I flipped it too quick. Did everyone see the pencil?
It worked out really good. Now, some of the guys didn't like using them because of the streamers, but they did do it.
And it might be hard if you have issues with buying motors, but that's a cool thing to do. I like it.
As you can see, Marlene, she is using her weights, and she's very proud that she could lift the weights, because when we said weightlifting, she said no at first. But she was just very proud that she finished that. Next slide. And we tried to figure out ways that we could just get more flexibility for the upper body. So we got creative with our local hardware store, Lowe's, and we got dowel rods. And everybody had a dowel rod for bending and just twisting at the top to build up their upper body. As you can see, she is very proud that she is part of that class. This lady just had her 74th birthday, and she exercised 3 times a week with us. Next slide. And this is another gentleman with a sight impairment, and how we had to do verbal prompts, and just we would talk with him, and sometimes we would clap loudly, and he would just be able to know what we were needing. Next slide. And here is another sight impairment gentleman using our sticks for upper body strength. Next slide. And even people in wheelchairs can exercise, and she's proof of that. Next slide. Even people that have to sit down, or people that can't see what you're doing, there's ways to work with them so they can join the class and exercise. Next slide. We have one male staff, and that's Daniel, and he got up there every day and exercised. And if you see what he's holding, they're glow-in-the-dark circles like you get at the circus or at a county fair. And we turned the lights off, and everybody was circling and just watching the glow-in-the-darks. It was a lot of fun. Next slide. This is a gentleman who said no exercise is for women, but he was there, and he actually won our 4th month celebration with a cash prize. Next slide. Even mobility issues again. We were talking with Lindsay on how to help this gentleman exercise, and when his mom would come and pick him up early, when she found out that he was exercising, she now doesn't come and pick him up till later so he can attend class. She was so impressed with everything that we had accomplished with him. Next slide. And this is just us as a group. Next slide. This young lady just graduated high school from the School of the Blind, and was so glad to know that we were going to keep mobility issues for her going. And she uses a sighted guide in the community and a walking cane in her environment, but she exercised without a walking cane and with just us standing in front of her giving verbal directions. Next slide. This is just Marlene. She loved watching the sign, like our translator signed to her as she was exercising. Next slide. And this again, we're doing the YMCA, and everybody can see that's our C. Next slide. And we even, the lady in pink is actually our speech therapist, and she come out and even exercises with us. Next slide. And we're doing just our balancing, and we had issues with one lady who wouldn't stand but for a couple of minutes at a time. She now is able to stand and exercise for 20 minutes at a time before she needs to sit down and take a break. Next slide. There again, that's our speech therapist, and what we're doing is we are just what we call free stepping, because everybody wears a pedometer every day, and I'll explain about that. It'll just take a few minutes, and so we're free stepping. Next slide. And there we are with our arms up doing our YMCA again. Like I said, that's their favorite song to exercise. Next slide. This is our young lady that had just recently joined us, and she is doing her chair exercises and enjoyed it so much that we found a community chair yoga class, and she attends that now out in the community with other people. Next slide. Overall, we had lost a total of 30.5 inches. Our young gentleman, he lost 6.5. Anna won our award for most dedicated, and Jackie won for the most steps walked in a month, and she walked over 135 steps. And with that, Anna and Matt both had won $75 cash prize. Jackie had won a $50 prize. Next slide, please. Over the 12-week program, we still enjoy our exercise, and we did not give it up. They still want to exercise 3 times a week on the calendar. They have a little exercise mat, and they move it every day. They look forward, and I would be in trouble if I had to tell them they couldn't exercise. Next slide. There's a monthly contest that we have right now, and it is for the top 3 people that walk the most steps. And our first prize, they win $15, second prize is $10, and third prize is a $5 gift. We got a budget of $1,000 when we started this from our CEO, who was very good, and she's allowed us to budget this how we need to, and we're able to do this through this whole year. And then we'll put it in the budget to keep having a Health Matters budget every year after that. Next slide. And we would just like to thank Lindsay and everybody involved with the Health Matters and introducing us to this program. Overall, we had 8 in the class that started, and towards our last of our 12-week class, just the exercise part, we have 22 people. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Kim, I want to first apologize for sorry, Lisa, for our technical difficulties. We had some really bad feedback for a second, and I missed part of your webinar, but did you talk about the pedometer that you were able to run for Jack that spoke to her? Did you talk about that at all?
Yes, I can, and I need to apologize. Our winner, York, I said 135 steps. It's actually in a month. She walked over 135,000 steps. I went on a website because we have some people that are sight impaired that really wanted to keep up with how much they are walking. When they come into our day program every morning at 8 o'clock, they get their steppers, that's what they call them, and then they turn them back in right before they go home. We keep up with it daily and then get the total at the month. I had a hard time trying to figure out how can I get something that's going to tell somebody that can't see. So one of our young ladies that just graduated from high school has a talking watch, and I thought, well, why can't we find talking pedometers? And actually, I went on to eBay with just that and put it in for the search, and I was amazed at how many different adaptations that you can get for somebody that's blind, and very reasonable, too. I believe it was $3 for the talking pedometers and $1.50 for regular pedometers. Right away, I ordered 30, and people, even staff that don't come into the office, heard about our little contest and had asked for pedometers. They like seeing the numbers click every day, and they hear it, and I don't even have to take them out to the program. They come to my office and say, I need my staff. And it's just amazing at how people have gotten so involved with this.